All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a huge update for you. Now, I'm on like 3 hours sleep for the last few days, so I'm going to make this as quickly as possible. As you can see in the description, I've got a lot of updates. Very good news. First off, this morning I broke the news that in WA, the One Nation scrutineers that were in the polling booths making sure that the votes were counted actually got kicked out by the AEC because they weren't wearing masks. Now, if you're like me and you think that's a huge problem, you're absolutely right. And in fact, because of the public pressure and because of what has happened over there, the AEC today have stopped trying to enforce the mask mandate for scrutineers there, which is a huge win. Absolutely excellent, because it means that they can go out there. To all of you guys and girls that ended up contacting Travis to help bolster the numbers, thank you so much. For those of you that just joined, again, the AEC the workers in the AEC WA have stopped enforcing the mask wearing for scrutineers for the One Nation polling workers who they sent out and they kicked out of a polling booth yesterday. So that's really good. If you're just joining now, give this a share. I've got some great news for you. That's only the first thing. Second thing, I've got an update for the Senate vote for you. Some really good news with the Senate vote. The way it's panning out, and I wasn't expecting this, but the way it's panning out, the mail-in ballots that have been used this time around, not like the US system, the Australian mail-in ballots that have been used this system, they're coming in more conservative than left-leaning, which I didn't think was going to happen. In America, it's more left-leaning with the mail-in ballots. But in Australia, it seems as though a lot of older voters, maybe people that don't want to go to the polling booth or can't go to the polling booth, it seems as though they're actually getting more votes. So there are a few seats. I'm going to run through the states really quickly just to give you an update. So for WA, One Nation looks like they have a quota to actually get up there. It's been a really interesting race to see. It's razor thin. It is somewhat razor thin, and that's why the scrutineers are so important. And that's why when I saw that the WA AEC workers were kicking workers out for scrutineers who were watching the vote for their candidate for One Nation, I was furious, and I put the word out there, and it looks like they've backed off, which is really good. So thank you guys for sharing it. This is why I tell you to share this stuff, because it actually has an impact, believe it or not. 700 people listening right now. Give this a share. I don't sleep 3 hours for nothing. So that's WA. WA is looking really good. It's looking like One Nation will actually end up beating the other parties that are running there, which is really excellent to see. South Australia, One Nation, it looks like they have a quota. It looks like probably the safest place where we're getting a freedom candidate. One Nation will be probably the one that gets up. I do believe the lady that's getting up there, her daughter also got up in the state election in South Australia. They've both got the last name Game. Excellent people. So the senator that's getting up here is Jennifer Game. She's a brilliant lady, and I think that she'll do really well if elected, which I think she will be. It looks like she's got a quota. So that's 2 so far. Queensland, One Nation. Of course, Pauline Hanson. It looks like she's got a quota. It's really funny because the mainstream media have been saying, oh, she's going to lose her seat to the Greens. That's not the case. The Greens are getting the 5th Senate spot. But in each state, there's 6 Senate spots up for grabs. So Pauline's going to get the 6th Senate spot, which is really good to see. Now, that's still being confirmed, but the way the trend's going, it's looking like she's going to end up winning it. Victoria, really tight race, mainly between the UAP or One Nation. I'm not sure which one will end up getting it. I think that race is being tightened. But either way, if you're like me and you don't really care, as long as it's a freedom candidate. So it's between the One Nation candidate and the UAP candidate for Victoria. For New South Wales, it's very slim, very slim. We've got Jim Molan, who's that sort of fake conservative in the Liberal Party. He ended up taking the spot of Concetta Fierravanti-Wells, who is a true conservative in the Liberal Party that got kicked out for standing up to Scott Morrison and Alex Hawke, who empowers Scott Morrison. And instead, we've got a Pauline Hanson One Nation candidate and a UAP candidate who are absolutely challenging the vote in this area. They're doing a really good job in making sure that they try and beat together Jim Molan from the Liberal Party. Now, regardless, it doesn't really matter hugely in terms of the numbers, how that goes, but that's typically what we're seeing in New South Wales. Tasmania, this is the most exciting one of them all. I really want to see Topher Field get up. I really want to see him get it up. Give this a share, guys. Get it out there. I really want to see Topher get up. If you're in Tasmania, they need Scrutineers to really make sure that count is done properly. It is so slim down there. It's going to basically be such a tight race. I can't wait to see what happens. Like, if Topher gets in, I'm going to be the happiest. I'm going to be visiting him like every time he's down in Canberra, because it's only a 3-hour drive away. So, like, no promises about Tasmania. It's probably one of the hardest, slimmest, most unlikely, but there's still a path for Tasmania. So in terms of the states, it's looking like there are 4, maybe 5, and possibly 6 if Topher gets up. That's amazing. 6 senators is absolutely massive. That's exactly the amount of senators that the Greens got up this election. If we did that again in the next election, we've got the balance of power. It's amazing. That's huge. And these senators that are getting up, they're not there for 3 years. They're up for 6 years. So they can't kick them out in the next election in 3 years for the federal government. And that's amazing. That's 6 senators backing up our existing senator, being Malcolm Roberts, also Senator Rennick and Senator Antic. And this is really good this is phenomenal to see. If you're listening to this, give this a share. There's a lot of people that need a bit of an uplift right now. And this is not hopium. This is what I'm seeing right now. And as I said before, we're seeing some great senators get up. In the Northern Territory, it looks like the Country Liberal Party, which is basically the Liberal Party, Jacinta Price got up. She's excellent. She's quite sound. It's excellent to see that she's ending getting up. And in the ACT, and this is one of the most important races, and I'll tell you why. I know I said that about the Tasmania race for the Senate, but there are only, in the territories, Northern Territory and the ACT, there's only 2 Senate spots up for grabs in each of them. In the ACT, it's looking like Labor's got the first one. Okay, they've got it. But the second one is up for grabs. And it's either going to be the Liberal Party, or it's going to be a Climate 200 candidate, a former Wallaby, David Peacock, who we obviously don't want to see get it, because we all hate, the Climate 200 people and what they're trying to push with climate change. So, in the ACT, the Liberal Party are starting to really get ahead because the postal votes are coming in. And this is something I haven't seen before. I didn't think this was going to happen. But the postal votes, it seems as though they're leaning more conservative. They're coming in at a faster rate for Conservatives. I didn't think that was going to be a thing. If you look at what happened in the USA, the lefties were more using the postal votes. But in Australia, it seems as though the Conservatives are being favoured more. That's really interesting. Maybe it's just an age thing. I don't know. Guys, we've got 1,000 listeners right now. If you all give it a share, this will get like 50,000 views. I'm not joking. This is an important breakdown. I'm only at point 2. The first one was the WA, Western Australia Electoral Commission workers stopped kicking out One Nation Scrutineers for not wearing masks. They kicked them out yesterday. Well, they've stopped that today thanks to you guys sharing the videos and getting this out and making sure we put pressure on them. Secondly, the Senate vote around the country. It's looking like we're going to get 4, possibly 5, and maybe 6 if Topher comes through in Tasmania. It is possible. And the votes are still being counted. I can't wait to see how this goes. This is absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see what happens. And this is the thing. This is what I forgot to say before. In the ACT, if the Liberal Party actually end up losing if the Liberal Party end up winning that seat and they make the Climate 200 candidate lose that seat, David Pocock, then that means that Labor, the Greens, are 1 seat short from a majority. That would mean that the Freedom Parties would have the balance of power. That's amazing. But this is the thing. We have to win Tasmania. We have to win and the Liberal Party has to win the ACT. They have to beat David Peacock because it means it's 1 less seat that the Liberals get. It's conceivable. It's absolutely conceivable. This is amazing. I can't wait to see what happened. So a lot of people have been asking for data about, is the election rigged or whatever. The third thing I want to talk about is we are going to be using data from the Turning Point Australia How to Vote cards. Don't worry, it doesn't compromise your votes. It's literally just, we see the downloads, we see which electorates they came from, and we're like, oh, the electorate of Parramatta. It turns out that there are actually this many how to vote cards giving a first vote to this candidate. Why is it that he doesn't have that many votes? That's the sort of analysis we're going to be doing, among other things, and that's going to really help us screw down on exactly how extensive this voter fraud is. And I don't think it's as bad as we think, but this is another data point which is going to help all of us. Another point, we are gathering testimonies, thanks to Millie Gates on Instagram. We're gathering testimonies of people in the freedom movement who are AEC workers, they worked as scrutineers, and they were volunteers, and they're giving us a really interesting understanding of what the vote actually is. It seems as though the freedom community is about 15%. Now that's in line with the Senate vote. Remember, in each state, there's 6 senators. That's about 16% of the vote. If the freedom community is 15%, that's translating into the Senate vote. That's really good. That's excellent. That shows that it's actually a lot more accurate. These elections are a lot more accurate than we thought. Number 5, I've got a number of interviews coming up. This Friday, it's looking like I may or may not be appearing on an interview with a bunch of other minor party leaders, which will be really good. I'm hoping I can appear on that. I might be busy, but I really want to appear on that to break down what we saw in the election and exactly what's going on with this voter fraud. Also, I've got an interview with the legendary Professor David Flint. I've been wanting to interview this guy for at least a year and a half. He's an absolute legend, and he has some solutions about he's been calling out voter fraud for a very long time. He called it out in the US. You can read all his articles about it. He called it out on his show. And I'm really looking forward to interviewing him because he's an absolute legend. He's a statesman, and he's actually got some solutions to solve it. He's a really excellent bloke. Now, actually, by the way, Professor David Flint is the guy that nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2020. Number 6, I spoke to Rod Cullerton today. He's going to do a dispute resolution with Matthew Blunn, the national leader of dispute resolution. If something comes of that, that's great. It's not my area, the constitutional stuff, but in the meantime, I'll be focusing on what's in front of me, reporting to you guys what's going on with this. Remember, 3 hours sleep. I'm barely sleeping on this, but this is important information. Why? Because it's some of these seats, like Tasmania, WA, New South Wales, it's by the skin of our teeth. We have to make sure, if you can contact give this a share first off, get that out there. But if you can become a scrutineer for one of your candidates, you can go and watch the Senate ballots being counted. And I really want to make sure that we're securing our votes in the Senate, because it's razor thin, especially in WA, especially in Tasmania, and especially in New South Wales. This is so important. In the ACT, if we get a senator up, that's phenomenal. Now we're talking the possibility of actually getting the balance of power. If we get, if the Liberal Party win the ACT second Senate spot, and Topher Field also gets up in Tasmania, and Liberal or Freedom parties win the other Senate spots, we've got the balance of power. That's wild. That's absolutely crazy. Now, I don't want to pump you guys up here. Who knows what will happen? The vote's still going on, but that is what I'm seeing right now in front of me. I've seen some great data analysis, thanks to Tyler Walsh from One Nation, great guy, and it's been amazing to see what's been going on. I've also been hearing what's been going on the ground up in WA, Western Australia. I want to say happy birthday to Travis Carter's daughter, Estel's birthday. If you guys can leave a message for her, she's a little girl, she's a lovely girl. And I want to see exactly what happens with that data from Tyler Walsh over the course of the next week as it pans out. But as I said, a very unusual data point is the fact that the mail-in ballots are actually becoming out more conservative than left-leaning. That's really insane, because the mail-in ballots are counted last, and it might actually give a surge that the Liberal Party needs in Canberra, and also that Topher needs in Tasmania and the other seats around Australia as well. But we'll see. Very last thing, a lot of people have been crying fraud about a lot of things. I'm there with you. There's a lot of things which there's big question marks over it. There's a lot of people that reacted to things like the two-party preferred count, which happens on election night, which is the second count. I explained that the other night. There's a lot of people that were, I think, misjudged in jumping on that. They just had to read the manual about how to vote, about how the cards are actually counted and how the votes are counted. But there are things which we do need to look into. And I wanted to make the point that if you wanted lower house seats, we didn't do enough work to actually get them. 15% of the vote is not enough to actually get the vote up in a lot of the lower house seats. We needed to do a lot more work. And if you look at the interview that I did, I just posted it on Turning Point Australia here, you'll see that. That's it for here, guys. Really encouraging news about the Senate race. I'll let you know how it goes. I'm not selling you hopium. It's looking like we're going to get minimum 4 Senate spots for the Freedom Parties, possibly 5, maybe 6 if we stretch it, maybe 6. And that is a phenomenal result. That is success. That is absolutely brilliant. In 2 years, for a community to come together like that, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And this is the thing. If by some miracle in Canberra, if David Peacock, the Climate 200 candidate, doesn't get up and the Liberal Party gets up, and we also get the Tasmania spot, and in the other states, WA, South Australia, Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales, if we get the spots or the Liberal Party get the spots, that means we control the balance of power. That is wild. It's slim. It's bloody slim. So pray. And if you can't pray, then go be a scrutineer. But we are that close. We are that close. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. But it's looking more and more promising that the Freedom candidate's going to get up in 4 states minimum and possibly 5, possibly 6. Let's see what happens. But also, we're kind of relying on the Liberal Party to get up in Canberra. And as much as I hate to admit it, we didn't have much of a showing with the Freedom Parties in Canberra. So if the Liberal Party gets that spot, that's 1 less seat that the crazy climate people are doing. I'm going to cut it there. I need to get some sleep. I've only had I've been averaging 3 or 4 hours sleep each night this week to try and get you some answers. Give it a share. There's 1,000 of you listening live right now. I got to wake up at the crack of dawn tomorrow, 5 a.m. And please remember to look out for each other. Even if this doesn't turn out the way we want, guys, even if we don't get the balance of power, even if we don't actually manage to stop legislation, we're going to stick together like we did in the lockdowns. We're going to make sure we keep powering through it. We will be back in 3 years and we will capture the balance of power. And sooner than that, we will be looking towards the Victorian state election in November and also the election in March next year for New South Wales. Because if we can't stop the mandates federally, you can be damn well sure we're going to try doing it on a state level. I'll see you guys later.